We're sitting in the mother's room at Skandashram. This is the room where she lived, and this is where she finally passed away in 1922 after being liberated by her son Bhagavan. The mother was an active member of the community here for the first few years. She was cooking the food, looking after the various sadhus who came and went. But for the last 2 years of her life, she was getting increasingly sick. Kunju Swami has reported that she had some strange kind of chronic diarrhea that never went away, and that no treatment was able to arrest her decline. Over time, she became less and less able to look after herself, so Chinnaswami, her son, and Kunju Swami ended up looking after her here and saw her through her final days. On the day that she finally eventually passed away, Bhagavan came and sat with her in this room and spent the whole day with her. Towards the evening, he put his hand on her spiritual heart and said that in her final moments, all of her future lives were revealed to him as a kind of fast-forward film is not quite the right word, but imagine you've got a video on fast-forward. That's how it appeared to him. He said various images came up, and each image was a future life that she would have had to experience had he not put his hand on her heart and removed all the karma, all the vasanas, which would have made those future lives come about. When the final life stopped, the movie reel ended, Bhagavan kept his hands there because he remembered Palaniswami several years before. He had tried to liberate his attendant Palaniswami in Virupaksha cave and had assumed that Palaniswami had somehow realized the self, but at the last minute his jiva reactivated itself and escaped through his eyes. So Bhagavan said, remembering what had happened in Palaniswami's case, I kept my hands there for a much longer time and made sure that my mother was fully liberated. After the liberation had taken place, Bhagavan went out and said, now we can eat. Now this is, in a Hindu cultural context, quite significant. If you've been in contact with a dead body, then the first thing you do is have a ritual bath. You don't eat. By saying now we can eat and going off to join the rest of the devotees, Bhagavan was indirectly announcing that his mother was liberated, that she wasn't in a state of ritual pollution, and that none of the rules that applied to ordinary corpses applied to her because she'd realized the self. Now, people knew that the mother was in a very serious condition. Ganapati Muni was here with a group of his followers, and throughout the day he was doing a Vedic chant with his followers. Another group of people were singing other songs. One man from Punjab, he was busy going Ram, Ram, Ram. So everybody, whatever their tradition, was focusing on a particular spiritual chant which had some significance to them. Once the evening meal was over, arrangements were made for the funeral of the mother the next day. Devotees were sent down to town to get the necessary materials to construct a samadhi at ground level. And then Bhagavan himself announced that they should spend the whole of that night sitting in the mother's presence chanting Tiruvachikam. Tiruvachikam is a 1,000-year-old devotional work composed by Manikavachika. It was one of Bhagavan's favourites. And Kunju Swami has said that they took it in turns to chant the whole work from beginning to end, and that Bhagavan was paying very careful attention to every single line that was chanted, and if anyone made a pronunciation mistake, Bhagavan himself would correct, and then they would carry on. This went on till about 4 o'clock the next morning, by which time some of the materials had been collected for the funeral, and it was decided that her body would be interred at the bottom of the hill on the south side. There is a tradition in Tiruvannamalai that you don't bury a body on the mountain of Arunachala. The mountain is considered to be a lingam, and you don't desecrate a lingam by interring a body on the mountain. So the temple authorities, they came and reminded Bhagavan of this particular rule, and of course he had no intention of desecrating the mountain, even with his own mother's body. So it had been agreed that the body would be taken down the following morning and buried at the foot of the hill in the place where Ramanashram is now located. Kanjuswami narrates that he and Ramaswami Pillai had a few days before gone to the top of the mountain and had found some leftover bamboo poles which someone had cut and failed to collect. So they thought, well, let's take these back to Skandashram, we'll find a use for them. And the first time they were used was making a kind of stretcher palanquin to carry the mother's body very slowly down the hill to the current site of Ramanashram. The party went down the hill and it assembled under the big Bodhi tree, which is still existing on the side of the Palitirtham tank, which is nearest the road. A telegram had been sent to Bhagavan's sister and they were waiting for her to arrive. When everybody had assembled, all the devotees came from town, they brought their flowers, they brought their offerings. The body was taken to the site of the mother's temple, where it is now in Ramanashram, and a special samadhi pit was dug there according to the rules of Tirumula. He had a spiritual text which was written about 1,000 years ago, which gives quite detailed instructions on how to bury the body of a saint. Bhagavan had already declared her enlightened, and they were putting on the proper ritual performance for the final interment of the body of a liberated woman. It's an interesting procedure. You make a cubic pit first, you line it with stones, then inside that cubic pit you make a triangular wall out of bricks. You put the body inside in full lotus, you drape it in a special cloth, and then you fill in all the space inside that triangular brick structure with camphor vibhuti. You put a stone slab on top, then you fill in the whole grave and put a sealed stone on top. I talked to Kanjuswami about this, and he remembers helping with this, and he said he didn't really know about the official rules, but he said he was told that when you bury a jnani, the body shouldn't come in contact with earth, it should only be in contact with stone, and he was told this as he was digging the funeral pit. Now, after the conclusion of all the ritual ceremonies, there was a big feast in Palakottu. A temple clarinet, Nadaswaram player, had been hired, and he walked very, very slowly to Palakottu at the head of the procession. He faced all the other people who were walking behind him. Instead of walking forwards, he walked backwards. Bhagavan was the next person, and Kanjuswami has reported that it took almost an hour to walk what's probably about 200 yards from the mother's samadhi to the place in Palakottu where they had their meal. And Kanjuswami said it was a glorious sight. The Nadaswaram player was playing, he was swaying backwards and forwards, and Bhagavan, with his eyes closed a lot of the time, was swaying backwards and forwards to the rhythm of the music. And very, very slowly this funeral party made its way to Palakottu, where they had a big post-funeral feast, and then everyone dispersed and went back to their homes. Bhagavan went back up to Skandashram and continued to come down to the foot of the hill for about 6 months, and then one day he came down and never went back up again. Now there are several theories as to why Bhagavan abandoned Skandashram and went to live at Ramanashram. Kanjuswami, for example, said he did it for the benefit of the elderly devotees who couldn't regularly come to Skandashram to see him. But Bhagavan himself never gave a reason. All that Bhagavan said was that I came down the hill one day and there was no command inside me to go back up the hill to Skandashram. So it wasn't a positive decision, I will go down the hill, I will stay there. He said simply the self never issued the command inside himself to walk back up the hill to Skandashram and carry on living there. So when Bhagavan, in the absence of this go back up the hill command, stayed down at Ramanashram, a small community started to grow there. A coconut leaf hut had been built over the mother's samadhi, and that became the basis of the new Ramanashram. For several years Bhagavan lived in a coconut leaf structure which had been constructed over the mother's samadhi, and I think for at least 2 or 3 years it was just 2 little small thatched rooms over the mother's samadhi, and then in the later 1920s slowly the ashram started to develop. But initially all of Ramanashram consisted of one thatched hut over the remains of Bhagavan's mother, whom Bhagavan had declared enlightened, who he had taken down the hill, buried her at the current site of Ramanashram, and her body became the nucleus for the growth of the Ramanashram we see today.
Vande Shri Ramanashrayacharasya Padabjam Yo me darshedisham bhandam dvandamaditya.
Hi, Namaste. My name is Henry Judicare, and today I come to you as a hypnotherapist that has worked with thousands of clients, and my special field of interest and study at this time is brainwashing and mind control by cults. And I also come to you today as a devotee of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi, who has been called by Hindu scholar the greatest yogi of the 20th century. Over the last year, I have made more than 30 videos about the life and teaching of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi at the Sri Ramana Ashram in India. And you can view those videos on this channel. Now this is part 2, the final part on my commentary on the excellent interview of Jeffrey Mishlove and Julie Anderson, and also my belief that the present Adidam organization is a cult. I really like Julie Anderson as a person, especially her laughter like this one.
That's funny.
It's like, Donald Trump coming down the escalator with his fashion model wife.
That is really funny.
She had a very intense and special life in the company of Aditya Samraj. Now, is she still very brainwashed or more enlightened person? As I was listening of her describing the various samadhis that she did experience, this samadhi and this other samadhi, in her sadhana with Aditya, she forgot to say conditional samadhi. Some little, for a few hours, a day or so, experience of a conditional samadhi. But this woman, when she left the island of Netumba, went deep down into the depth of depression that she had to take pills. So she did not experience what is called the Sahaj Samadhi, full realization of the self. After being 16 years with Aditya and working 16 more years in his organization, it is my deep belief that she has not experienced self-realization completely. Spurt of little samadhis. I'm wondering of what is the ultimate intention of Judy doing those interviews. She obviously is not telling the whole truth of her involvement with the cult in Aditya. Like this clip. of Mr. Mishlove asking directly, did you see abuse?
There seem to be many examples in other ashrams of people who were exploited and abused with no result of this helped me to awaken at all. It was just pure exploitation. Did you ever experience yourself, or did you ever know of anybody in the ashrams where you were who felt themselves to be exploited in that way?
The people that I know and have maintained an intimacy with, that I actually was involved in with myself personally, no.
Well, it's obvious to me that she cannot tell the truth. Nothing but the truth. Come on now. She arrived in Adida, intimate relationship, and there was 15 people involved with him at the time. Plus his wife Nina was around. The only legal marriage he ever had. I wonder what she thought when she said I do to Franklin Jones. So Judy left her boyfriend, Mark, relationship that was 3 years. Basically at the beginning, broke her heart, but she didn't care. She wanted to be an intimate relationship with Adida and the 15 others. And there's been testimonial of some of the female massage therapists of Adida that also were giving him fellatio. And she said, no, I did not see abuse. I did not see anything wrong. Is she naive or think that we are stupid? Was she around when there's testimonial that Nina would beat up and receive the black eye from Adida? Was she around then? Or when he had those big explosions of anger and yelled and screamed at everybody? Was she not there? And what happened later on when people had to sign contract to give their whole life to him before meeting him in person? Did she stand up and say, no, that's not okay? When I came in, I just moved in with you, start having sex with you. You're making it too difficult for the newcomers to see you now. What's the intention of Julie doing all these interviews? She wants to tell the world that Adida is really the real avatar, a divine being, someone that you should worship his pictures. Is that what she's gonna do now? Maybe tell the whole world, buy life-size pictures of Adida and worship his pictures? As he himself mentioned, do some murtis of me after I die. Is that what the intention of Julie is? She become an Adida preacher and say, come this way. Adida will save you, will give you tremendous light. Recently, I went to a Siddha center where I saw big pictures of Muktananda and people prosterning themselves in front of those pictures. And we know that he was a liar, a deceiver that had plenty of sex in secret, even if he was dressed in orange and even his Kleenex were orange. I would not bow down to that picture in 1,000 years. Nor would I bow down to the picture of Adida. And those that do should really investigate deeply their own belief system. Ramana Maharishi taught that the truth is within. He said, practice vichara, self-inquiry. Go within, ask yourself, who is that I? It's a personal inner process. Ramana Maharishi never took disciple ever did he give diksha. He did not say, worship me, adore me, make murti of me. Never. He always said, go within your own heart, your own self. I think I would like to finish this video with some humor. I listened to this part of the interview of Jeffrey Mishlove, and I thought it was really interesting and funny that Julie said they came and stole our diary and destroyed our artwork. Just listen.
So, but I was aware that there was something that did occur, because at a certain point, I remember being told that it would be a good idea to make sure that all of our whatever kinds of things that we had that were writings or diaries of our own personal process, that it would be good to actually burn them.
Oh.
And when I heard about that, I thought, what the hell? And why would we want to do that? This is precious. This is all incredibly precious. That instruction didn't come from Adida, I found out. That came from individuals who themselves had some guilt in terms of relationship to what they did, that they felt needed to be hidden. Yeah. And also then my art that I did was destroyed.
Oh.
You know, all of what I had created was actually destroyed by others. My diaries destroyed by others. So I do think all along there has been certain moments in which there were people who were saying, this is, you can't be seen doing this, or you can't do that, and what you're doing is controversial. And I have never, ever understood the lengths at which the gathering has gone to try to feel that there's a reason to hide what we have done. I just, and I'm here, and I'm not hiding stuff here. I'm just saying it plainly as it happened, and people can take it or leave it, or make use of it or not.
Julie is extremely naive if she thinks that someone came and destroyed her stuff without the permission of Adida. He had the last word on everything. He controlled everything, including those that were in charge of his ashram. But what a loss! She said those diaries were precious. I wonder what was in those diaries. The famous Playboy, beautiful body woman that had tantric sex with Adida. I really wonder what was all about. I think hundreds, thousands, millions of men would like to know, what was the technique? Did you do a lot of breathing? Was it the trusting? Was it the penetration? You have to give details. How do you achieve that tantric union and those orgasms that can last for hours? Were you breathing in unison for hours on end? Nobody has revealed what happened at the tantric union of a beautiful woman like Julie Anderson and Adida. Maybe she should write a book now before she gets too old and cannot remember. Write a good book. The Joy of Sex with Tantric Master Adida. Hey, if you want to write it, I'll reserve a copy. If what she says is truth, well, she was deeply in a cult, not only with Adida on top, but all the fanatics, some of who I have met, who served them like Adida was God, the ultimate authority. They would have done anything for him. Some of those guys were dangerous and are dangerous. So if there is a consideration, if there's a big lesson to learn here, for me is that Adida appeared in my life exactly at the time that I needed to connect with Ramana Maharishi and technique to help my wife die. And I'm sure that there is lots of wisdom in his book that can be applied in your life, as a lot of it is copied from writers of the great traditions. And I believe that at this time, right now, 2024, the best way to experience self-realization is to practice a meditation within one's own heart, not worship external deities, as Adida said that he wanted to be. He said, make murtis of me after I die. If you want to worship Adida in his picture, well, good luck for your self-realization. As far as I could see, Julie's an example of that. Lots of samadhis, lots of tremendous experience, but not through self-realization. No sahaj samadhi. At one point, Adida said that there would be many enlightened beings, and that the world would recognize its own enlightenment. And it never happened. It was wrong for Adida to give permission to have a contract signed asking newcomers to give their life and their wealth for even future life before seeing him. It was wrong. And if you have read the works of Adida and you have not read the work of Sri Ramana Maharishi, well, I invite you to really investigate, and you will see that Sri Ramana Maharishi, within the context of his tradition, was absolutely pure, transparent, full of love and compassion. And he never said, worship me. He always said, go within your own heart, investigate. So that's my recommendation to all of you. As far as Julie Anderson, may she be happy and may she be at peace. Namaste.